Peace in every step. The shining red sun is my heart. Each flower smiles at me. How green, how fresh all that grows. How cool the wind blows. Peace in every step. It turns the endless path to joy. It's by Tin Thu, senior student of Thich Nhat Hanh. Janet will light the chalice here in the sanctuary. Those of you at home are invited to light your own chalice. We gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope as a sign of our quest for truth and meaning in celebration of the life we share together. Can you hear okay? Before we sing the first hymn, let me remind our remote visitors to leave yourselves muted. However, we want you to sing as loud and bold as you want. Make it a joyous occasion. Please stand now in body or spirit and sing the opening hymn, The Arcing Sky of Morning Glows, number 330.
Actually, I'm going to encourage you to sing more boldly, because you'll notice that our pianist, our wonderful pianist Janet, is not with us this morning, so I need you to sing out. Okay? Okay.
It's arching. I am proportion.
Arch, what did you say, aching? Arcing. Oh, okay, well, that's better than aching. The arching sky of morning glows like frescoes in vaulted rows. The ragged hills of greening spring like chorus masters bid us sing. The colors of our contoured land no artist born can you as grant, but contours of the human heart so grandings are for every art. Whenever sounds the sacred sigh beneath the gable of the sky, the forms of arts and spirit blend. By craft and morn our hearts transcend. Thank you. It's nice hearing you all.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist community of Cambria. We are glad you have joined us today. Our UUCC sanctuary sits on land that the Salinan and Chumash indigenous peoples historically inhabited. We honor their contribution to this region and give thanks for the opportunity to gather in faith on their unceded territory. Let us pause a moment to respect their legacy and protect their history as we occupy this sacred space. As Unitarian Universalists, we celebrate religious diversity and welcome all who journey in search of faith and spirituality. The UUCC is a lay-led congregation run by the democratic process. We invite speakers from different religious traditions and spiritual or scientific backgrounds, as well as community leaders, to speak at our pulpit. We encourage presentations covering a variety of topics and areas of interest that connect to the UU7 principles. Today's service centers around the 7th principle. We affirm and promote respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. My name is Nancy Tolan. I am your worship associate for this morning's service. Hi, Nancy. Hi. I would like to extend a special welcome to today's guests and visitors and Dolores. We're glad you've all visited us this morning, joined us this morning. If there are any visitors who would like to introduce yourself, raise your hand. Feel free. Yes.
Hi, I'm Margaret. I'm from the St. Pete, Florida, and I'm visiting
Okay. Welcome, Lori. Yes. Oh, thank you, Curtis, Helen, and Madison. Welcome. If you wish to see this or any of our past Zoom services, the recordings can be found on the UUCC website and on Facebook. So again, good morning and welcome to everyone. The affirmation is both a recognition of the nature of this community as well as a promise to which we aspire. Let us now recite the UUCC affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another. We set aside this time for brief announcements that will be of interest to our community and friends. Please be succinct when announcing upcoming events or updates. If you have an announcement, please raise your hand. When Andy or I call on you, come up to the podium or unmute yourself and then speak. And frankly, I have come on.
No, that's all right. I'm going to go because I won't forget. Operations Committee meeting on Zoom at 6 o'clock this coming Thursday. We will start to talk fundraiser. So if you want the Zoom link, just email me. This Thursday, 6 p.m. Operations Committee.
We have a potluck coming up Friday, the 14th at 5 o'clock right here in the sanctuary, and we invite all to come and join us.
One of our guests, Madison Scott, is a wonderful pianist and vocalist, and she is starting to perform at the Harmony Cafe. And I encourage you to come. Her next performance is June 23rd, which is a Sunday from 5 to 7.
Hello all, I'm Andy Fagan. This Wednesday at 4 p.m. there will be the monthly TED Talk discussion group. We meet strictly on Zoom, so you can stay at home and log in. There'll be an announcement in the What's Happening, as well as I'll send out an e-blast. Judy Butler is the host this Wednesday. She picked the TED Talk, about a 15-minute TED Talk, followed by an hour of discussion on that topic and wherever it leads us. And then secondly, starting the third week in June, I believe it's the 20th of June, General Assembly is taking place, and we'll be showing General Assembly on this screen live. So for those of you who want to witness what goes on, either in the business sessions or the worship sessions, those will be available for screening here in the sanctuary. Mary Schwalbe and I are your delegates this year, and we'll be hosting those gatherings. Specific times will get posted shortly. Thanks.
And I just want to announce that the Moving Towards Racial Justice group is meeting this Wednesday at 7 after the TED Talk, with time in between. We'll be discussing the last 3 stories of The Consequences by Manuel Munoz. I know that 2 of them are, one's about a dying farm worker and the other one is also farm worker related. But people liked the stories so much that even though we didn't finish talking about all of them, they wanted to finish the last 3 stories and not just move on. So we won't be seeing Rufkin until next month. Here at 7 o'clock, yes. This Wednesday here. I don't know the date, but it's Wednesday.
It's June 12th.
June 12th, okay. Ed, do you have anybody from Zoom with an announcement?
No online announcements. Back to you, Nancy.
Okay. Next week, TED Talker Michael Esselin will present The Thread. He's marvelous, by the way. We take this time to celebrate all those who are celebrating a birthday this month. Birthdays are special, a day when we celebrate your entry into the world and honor your existence. If you have a birthday this month, please raise your hand, and when Andy or I call on you, reveal your special date. You can omit the year. if you want. Yes.
It's actually not my birthday, but Treva will be celebrating her 50th on the 19th. So.
Oh, whoa. Great. Happy birthday, Treva. And also Gian Musara has a birthday this weekend. Yeah, Diane.
Yeah, I'm also celebrating my 50th plus.
Again, yeah. June 2nd. All right. Happy belated birthday. Okay. This birthday candle honors all our friends and family members who are also celebrating birthdays this month. Joys and Concerns is a time for sharing personal celebrations, sorrows, reflections, or gratitude. This is a time for community building. Please exercise brevity. Thank you. The collective flames of these candles embody all the joys and concerns which may have gone unspoken today, but are also deeply felt in this community. The first reading is an excerpt from The Wisdom of Yogananda, Volume 5, by Paramhansa Yogananda, an Indian American monk and yogi. Never let your mind be seduced by restlessness through joking too much, too many distractions, and so forth. Be deep. As soon as you succumb to restlessness, all old troubles will begin to exert their pull on the mind once again. Sex, wine, and money. Of course, a little fun and laughter is good occasionally. I too like to laugh sometimes, as you know, but when I choose to be serious, nothing and no one can draw me out of my inner self. Be deep in everything you do. Even when laughing, don't lose your inner calmness. Be joyful inside, but always inwardly a little withdrawn. Be centered in the joy within. Dwell always in the self. Come down a little bit when you have to eat or talk or to do your work, then withdraw into the self again. Be calmly active and actively calm. This is the way of the yogi. Let us enter a place of peace and serenity where you are one with your spiritual being. Be at peace within your space where the absence of all that is temporal is its most cherished gift. Let us enter the stillness. May we find the compassion and empathy to love we need to strengthen relationships. May we find ways to love each other well. May we not judge or condemn, but rather build a beloved community. The second reading is an excerpt from The Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin, an American record producer and record executive. To hear whispers, the mind must also be quiet. We pay close attention on all fronts. Our antennae sensitively tuned. Boosting our receptivity may require a relaxing of effort. If we're trying to solve a problem, trying can get in the way. Splashing in a pond stirs up clouds of dirt in the clear water. In relaxing the mind, we may have greater clarity to hear the whisper when it comes. In addition to meditation, we might softly hold onto a question and go for a walk, a drive, or a swim. The question isn't being worked on, just loosely held in awareness. We are posing it gently to the universe and opening ourselves to receive an answer. Sometimes the words seem to arise from outside, and other times the inside. Whatever route the information arrives through, we allow it to come by grace, not effort. The whisper cannot be wrestled into existence, only welcomed with an open state of mind. Please stand in body or spirit and sing Weaver of Our Lives Design, number 22.
Dear weaver of our lives' design, whose patterns all obey, with skillful fingers gently guide the sturdy threads that will survive the tangle of our days. Take up the fabric of our lives with hands that gently hold, bind in the ragged edge that care would sunder and that pain would tear, and mend our ragged souls. Let eyes that in the plainest cloth a hidden beauty see, discern in us our richest hues, show us the patterns we may use to set our spirits free.
Today's talk is titled Soulful Art from the Depths of Her Heart, to be delivered by Margot Biggs. Margot's journey began in the Deep South, where her early years were spent exploring the natural beauty of North Florida. At 19, an exciting opportunity arose in the fashion industry, leading her to leave her southern roots for New York City. This opened doors to the world of travel and exposure to the rich art scenes of New York City, Europe, and Chicago. In Chicago, she embraced a new phase of personal growth. She married, started a family, and in the mid-'80s discovered yoga and meditation, practices that she continues to this day. However, life took a sharp turn for Margot in 2009, causing her to return to her hometown with her youngest son. Despite the challenges, she found a silver lining by pursuing her lifelong dream, painting. Dedication paid off as she gained recognition, winning awards, and securing solo shows. During this time, she also cared for her aging parents, a commitment that lasted 6 years. This period was followed by a joyful chapter, her marriage to Jordan. Together, they decided to move to California, seeking a fresh start closer to their children. After a life marked by frequent relocations, Margot is now settled here in Cambria. She is passionately dedicating herself to her art career, drawing from her rich experiences and building a beautiful life here in Cambria. Margot?
Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here. In particular, I would like to thank Randy and Julia who encouraged me to talk about my art today. Nature has always been a place of healing for me, a doorway to the spiritual world. When in a place of natural beauty, a sense of awe overcomes me, and my mind finds its way to stillness. Yet, for a very long period of time, solitude in nature was not easily accessible. So I began to paint the piece I found there and was rejuvenated in the process. As I apply layers, the painting often evolves into something new, far removed from the original scene that inspired me. The process leads me to expressions beyond what I initially envisioned. I lean into the unknown. The result is a communication of a feeling, of an experience, which comes from deep within my soul. With the use of color, rhythm, and altered form, I seek to touch souls in such a way as to heighten sensibility, inspire, and heal. Inspired by our natural world, my art is both peaceful and strong. It's become a part of the evidence-based healing arts movement and hangs in many hospitals and medical facilities from Chicago to Florida. It has also been collected for homes and businesses nationwide. It has long been my experience that art can be an aid in dealing with life's travails. Indeed, the history of art teaches us that this is so. Magnificent depictions of the crucifixion of Christ, for example, depict not only the incredible cruelty we as humans have the ability to inflict upon one another, but also the compassion and love the mourners shared. Though the image is quite beautiful, the subject is one of tragedy and horror. This elegant depiction of the crucifixion helps us better accept the inhumanity, death, and sorrow of the event, and by extension, the hardship of our own lives. Everyone, everywhere, wants to feel at peace. The family unit and our religious institutions are being challenged. Our world is chaotic, complex, and noisy. The internet brings us more bad news than we could possibly ever digest, and the superficiality of our consumer culture adds to the confusion. How do we find the inner peace we all so desperately need? Art, be it the musical, the theatrical, the literary, or the visual, can be an aid. I'm not speaking of art that is ugly or meant to shock the viewer. I don't see the value in that. There are artists who inform and question our societal standards, yet do so in a way that is pleasing. An example is the work of my mentor and teacher, Carrie James Marshall, whose paintings of the African American experience were skillfully rendered and thoughtfully composed. They draw the viewer in with their alluring imagery, yet would leave me wondering about the people who lived in the housing projects that which I passed each day on the way to my son's preschool. Carrie opened my mind to the prejudices I was not even aware that I had. How powerful that is. This 1994 painting, titled Many Mansions, was the first in a series of 5 large-scale paintings depicting the housing projects in Chicago and LA. Yes, art also has the ability to help us contemplate the lives of others, their history, and their point of view. Besides the fact that beauty captivates, drawing people into their creative expression with the goal of imparting a message, beauty itself matters. It is a resource that is essential to our lives. Though often discarded as useless in today's society, beauty has a value other than utilitarian. It answers a deep emotional need. It inspires us and raises us to a higher moral plane. It is my belief that there is a connection between the beautiful and the sacred. When we put our interests aside and look or listen to something beautiful, we're brought into the sacred. There's a connection. In this way, nature becomes a doorway to the spiritual world. I know this personally to be true. Creativity is also a way of sharing. As a highly visual and passionate person, I want to aid people in seeing the world the way that I see it. Many times I've been told that people see things now that they had not noticed before viewing my work, such as a negative space between the branches of a tree. The moving shapes on the surface of the water, and the patterns in the dampened sand. And color. I remember walking with a dear friend of mine on Pensacola Beach, where the shadows in the pure white sand were a vibrant blue. I enthusiastically pointed it out to Kathy, leaning over to touch the shadow of a footprint in the sand. Very intelligent woman. She goes, I don't see it, she honestly replied. And this is a piece of the sand I did. Later, I learned that there's a minority of people called tetrachromats who actually have an extra cone in their eyes, featuring a photopigment that allows them to see more color that's not visible to most people. And I'm willing to bet I'm one of those people. Born on the North Gulf Coast, I was raised with traditional Southern values and all the expectations that came with them. Art was a passion I found in high school, and I was always enrolled in at least one art class. My parents had a deep love of the outdoors, and we spent all our free time on our boat, on the beach, or in the woods. Yet I was a different one. I was sensitive, and I saw the world differently, even as a little girl. So very often on our outings, I'd wander off on my own, where I would commune with nature and heal. As a freshman at LSU, I studied art and graphic design. After a year, I was offered a job in the fashion industry in New York City, which I enthusiastically accepted. At that point, I had only been out of the Deep South once, and that was in a camper. That's pretty dang naive. New York City to me was intimidating and scary, yet also exciting and new. In New York, I was no longer the different one, just another face in a sea of diversity. For the first time, I was exposed to great art, the theater, and live classical music. As challenging as New York was, I loved it. This 10-year career gave me the opportunity to travel and live in Europe as well, where I frequented the museums, marveled at the sculpture throughout the cities, and admired the architecture. This had a profound impact on me. Yet, in spite of all the excitement and travel of my career, I found it unfulfilling. Soon after moving to Chicago in 1986, I learned to meditate and met my future husband. We married, and I returned to school at the University of Illinois at Chicago to study art. There, I was fortunate enough to study under Kerry James Marshall, taking as many classes as I could from him, from the first class he taught in figure drawing to higher level painting. During this period, the Art Institute of Chicago was the first major art institution to purchase Carey's work. From there, his career took off. I quit school for a while after the birth of my son and later returned. The marriage, however, was very unhealthy. For 10 years, we lived in a rough inner city neighborhood, far from any safe parks, where the sound of gunshots on summer nights was a norm. And I was very lonely. I knew how good it was for me to spend time in a quiet, uncrowded, natural setting, yet I couldn't get to a place of natural beauty. I'm talking serious inner city, rough neighborhood. Meditation and prayer had become a daily practice. I had my college classes, and I began to paint in our laundry room. The creativity and meditation kept me strong. Finally, in 1996, after the birth of our second son, we moved to the suburbs. We built a studio in our garage, and I continued to paint. Our kids could wander the neighborhood safely. Overall, life was improving, though my marriage was not. In 2001, after giving it all I could, I decided I had to leave him. One night, I snuck off to my neighbors to fill out the paperwork, and they weren't surprised that I was filing for divorce, and pointed out that what I'd been painting was broken seashells, broken eggshells, and dead birds. Though it was subconscious, my deepest feelings were coming through in my work. Here's my dead bird painting. A real estate career would follow. Still, as much as I could, I would paint. I was determined. At one point, we were living in a beat-up rental with plastic bathroom tiles and kitchen cabinetry. Yet I kept my easel up in a little 4-by-8-foot room, literally, off the kitchen. My ex-husband would spend very little time with our sons, but I painted whenever I could. By 2008, I was showing in group shows and selling. Life was a challenge. I was so busy, yet I kept painting as much as I could. I started writing poetry, which came to me when I painted. Nature and the peace it gave me came through in my work. These were not simply depictions of a beautiful place. They were communicating the experience of the strength, deep peace, and healing I found in the natural world. It was then that the doctors began to buy my paintings to hang in their offices. This painting, though very appealing, these two paintings that follow, they're very appealing. It's a beautiful beach up in Door County. But they both have a downward view. And this is inspired by the rocks and shadows on an Indiana beach of Lake Michigan. They also show a striving, a deliberate focus on the beauty present during a period of great loneliness and hardship. During the mortgage crisis of 2009, I went through complete bankruptcy, losing 3 properties and all my savings. After 30 years away, this led to a move back home. Though our Florida townhome was an absolute dump, I had 5 years of child support and alimony. This was my chance to make my dream of becoming a professional artist a reality. I was thrilled to be back on the Gulf Coast, and it showed in my work. My vision began to rise. Shell Ascending is particularly interesting in that it is one of the earliest of my broken seashells and the first one to be floating. The shell is positioned with the Pensacola Pass in the background. And in retrospect, I believe it was subconsciously I was painting a representation of my return home. I worked hard, painting regularly and showing my work at art festivals in Georgia, Alabama, and Florida. I was invited to recite my poetry. I won awards, received commissions, and had articles published about my work in numerous magazines. My greatest influences were the art of mid-century American and Canadian artists, including Rockwell Kent, Emily Carr, Lauren Harris, and Georgia O'Keeffe. However, more setbacks were to come. Life very often gets in the way of the pursuit of our dreams, It really does. In 2012, I decided to move into a duplex apartment above my parents to help care for them, take them to their numerous doctor appointments, and make them their meals, prepare their meals. Excuse me. In 2013, I published a book of my paintings and poetry titled Visions Through Paintings and Poetry. There's a couple of little copies over there. I also started painting magnolias and camellias. There were solo shows, including at the Pensacola Museum of Art, where both my paintings and poetry were featured. My output was solid, my skill continued to improve, and my vision evolved. Early on, the meaning behind the broken seashells was subconscious. Later, I realized I was painting my own brokenness. The trauma I'd been through was coming through, as was my faith and spirituality. The broken shells have evolved also into operating metaphors for our later years. Though we all become a bit faded and broken with time, with effort, our inner beauty will emerge. The inner spiral of a shell, for example, symbolizing our heart center. At an Atlanta show, I remember a woman walking into my tent, my display booth, and exclaiming, "I feel as though I've just walked into a cathedral." That was quite a compliment. Though my mother's dementia rapidly worsened and was very difficult to handle, my work ethic remained strong. Finally, in October 2014, we put my mother in a home, and a month later, she died. It was while she was in that home that I painted "The Sun Always Rises." And you'll notice that there's no white included. This again is subconscious. I usually have bright white and then a dark, dark. I like the contrast, but I didn't do it here, which adds to the sense of melancholy. Yet there's hope, because as we know, the sun always does rise. Soon after her death, I also painted "A Moment in Time." During the 6.5 years of caring for my parents, I spent countless hours on the National Seashore, where one can find complete solitude on an absolutely pristine beach. Alone to rest, take in the beauty around me, swim, and commune with nature, I found the strength to continue caring for my parents and to be there for my teenage son, all the while continuing to paint and getting my work out there. Here are a few from that period which were inspired by photos I took while on the Fort Pickens National Seashore. So this one's named Ocean Serenade, and it shows my complete mental immersion within the environment. I would sit in the Gulf with the water up to my chin, and I took a picture. I did several of these. And this is a queen where my optimism is evident with the storm clouds in the distance and the shell weightless and floating. By 2017, my father's numerous ailments consumed most of my emotional energy and time. This took a tremendous toll on my creativity and my business. In early 2018, I met my husband, Jordan. The following April, well, that was in early 2018, and then in April of 2019, my father passed away. In October, I moved to Cleveland to be with Jordan, and the following December, we were married. After his retirement in 2020, we moved to Pensacola, where we renovated a home near the bayou. I had finally found love, I had a permanent home in Florida, and my art took on a new phase. It was during this time that the German Expressionists began to influence my work. This movement is characterized by a focus on emotions and ideas as opposed to a replication of reality. They often use bright colors, simplified shapes, and distortion. Through the Trees is a piece inspired by Expressionism and the trees, pine trees in a nearby park. The pines became sentient beings as I painted this piece. Facing the sun, the yellow light became a goblet shape, and then the green grass reflects that shape. So you have the yellow goblet and then the green grass. The goblet is symbolic of receiving and holding the light of love, of spirit, of universal consciousness in our hearts. After just a year and a half in Pensacola, Jordan was offered a job to work at a startup in Silicon Valley. We enthusiastically agreed. Neither of us had ever lived west of the Mississippi River. You know, what a great adventure, you know. After 2 years, Jordan had had enough, and we decided to sell our Florida home and stay in California for good. Again, my art would begin to change. With 4 moves in 5 years, taking us from Cleveland to Cambria, a severe injury, and countless hours of physical therapy, my art again took a backseat. In 2023, finally settled in our forever home, I started painting regularly again. I find it interesting that one of my first paintings I made after the most recent delay was Sorrow. At this point, I had experienced a huge family betrayal. From there, I began to paint smaller pieces of the surrounding hills, you know, big difference from Florida. Moving on to larger pieces, such as this 36 by 36 inch titled Eternal Spring. While painting, deep insights and wisdoms comes to me, and symbolism emerges. This I share in the painting descriptions on my website, and part of the painting description for this piece reads, "Though the branches of the tree are bare, the clouds are in the distance, and the grass has sprouted afresh. We too are often laid bare, having personally endured the inevitable loss and hardships of life. I believe it is our duty to remain conscious of the fact that just as spring follows the winter, so too will difficult times pass." Viewing mountains rising up into the sky brings forth a feeling of upliftment within me. Though subtle, it's important to recognize these moments of emotional elevation, however fleeting they may be. In doing so, we give ourselves the fuel to overcome, to heal, to carry on through painful and challenging times. Art can be an aid in dealing with loss, heartache, and sorrow. It can inspire and uplift. Art can help us live more at ease, the lives we're living within our community and within the greater world. The enjoyment of art and the creation of it has been exactly that for me. For a long time now, a goal of mine in the creative process is to offer you more than beautiful imagery. and a reminder of the healing the natural world can bring. I offer you a visual aid to inner peace and spiritual growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. That was lovely. The morning offering will now be given and received. Please remember we are a self-sustaining congregation and provide all financial resources for our many ministries. We recognize spiritual value of generosity and invite you to participate. If you are viewing the service remotely, please use one of the methods shown on the screen. Thank you. Randy Schwalbe will provide the offering music this morning. Thank you, Randy. All right. Our thanks for all the gifts given and received for the work of this community. Please stand in body or spirit and sing the closing hymn, Let All the Beauty We Have Known, number 326.
Let all the beauty we have known illuminate our hearts and minds. Rejoice in wonders daily shown, in faith and joy and love that binds. We celebrate with singing hearts the loveliness of sky and earth, the inspiration of the arts, the miracle of every birth. Life's music and its poetry surround and bless us through our days. For this we sing in harmony, together giving thanks and praise. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mary. As we prepare to extinguish the chalice, let us recite the valediction. The flame of this chalice will no longer burn today, but the light of the flame within our hearts continues to shine brightly, illuminating the love felt in our community. Please extinguish your chalice at home now. Let's now form a circle and join hands. So Margot delivers the closing words.
Yeah. First of all, I want to mention when Yogananda speaks of the self, it's always with a capital S. And the way I interpret that is as in our heart center or our soul. So from the Wisdom of Yogananda, Volume 5, dwell always on the self. Come down a bit when you have to eat or talk or to do your work. Then withdraw into the self again. Be calmly active and actively calm. This is the way of the yogi.